Ebrietas, daughter of the cosmos. Ebrietas is a left-behind Great One who inhabits the Altar of Despair at the back of the Grand Cathedral in Yharnam. A relative of the Eldritch Great Ones, Ebrietas is a monstrous creature that resembles a slug with squid-like tentacles emerging from her back. Her face appears split in half and is covered in strange growths that resemble fungus that surround her vulnerable head. Only red flesh is seen, so it is possible that she has no real mouth. But, despite being a kin which most of them have bulging and globular yellow eyes, she has only 2 oval-shaped green eyes. Ebrietas also possesses a set of skeletal wings that grant her limited flight. The fact that this being is the conduit between the Church and the Great Ones, coupled with the title of daughter and her appearance, possibly shows that she is the first celestial child. Like most of the kin, she has gray-yellow blood but is able to spit a red fluid, similar to human blood, that inflicts frenzy. When the player finds her, she seems to be mourning, or simply sleeping, at the Altar of Despair, which appears to house the corpse of a dead being that resembles Ram. Little is known about Ebrietas' origins, although it is possible she was a Pthumerian ascended through kin. She originated from the land of Is, located in the labyrinths of the Chalice Dungeon. She would be discovered by the Healing Church, which founded the choir to protect and study her. As the only Great One who sought to coexist with humans, Ebrietas donated her blood to the Church. The Church grew to worship Ebrietas, particularly her blood that they used for their practice of blood ministration. However, as time went on, the Church became abusive through their usage of Ebrietas and her blood for their rituals. Ebrietas is a Great One from the land of Is, a plane located in the deeper reaches of the Chalice Dungeon labyrinth. According to the choir, the land of Is lies in contact with the cosmos, which allowed the Great Ones who resided there to function on transcendental planes of thought. The augur of Ebrietas suggests that the Church was able to use phantasms, which are slug-like invertebrates known to be augurs of the Great Ones, to partially summon Ebrietas. We can see this in the game. When the player uses the augur of Ebrietas, a cosmic rift opens up and a number of Ebrietas' tentacles forcefully project through before being suddenly severed off to fall to the ground. The initial encounter with Ebrietas through her phantasms marked the start of an inquiry into the cosmos from within the old labyrinth, essentially a search for the land of Is which lies in contact with the cosmos. To undertake the task, an elite delegation of the Healing Church known as the choir was formed. The choir was formed out of those high-ranking, elite members of the Healing Church who founded the orphanage, a place where these members could pursue scholarship and experimentation. As the name suggests, the subjects of their experimentation were those vulnerable children, with no one to miss them, who would become potent unseen thinkers for the Healing Church. The land of Is is reached through a ritual performed with the Great Is Chalice. This chalice was brought back to the surface after the time of the Burgenworth Schism and during an inquiry into the cosmos from within the labyrinth. Its ability to unlock the land of Is allowed the choir to have audience with Ebrietas face to face, rather than through partial summoning. Perhaps upon discovering Ebrietas, the choir believed that they had finally had the breakthrough they needed. They had made contact with a seemingly legitimate Great One, and surely more would follow. However, the discovery of Ebrietas revealed a startling truth to the scholars, that at some point in history there had been a mass departure of Great Ones, and that, as the augur of Ebrietas' description notes, Ebrietas herself had been abandoned. As it turned out, the choir and Ebrietas actually had goals that aligned in that both were seeking to rediscover the Great Ones, that true greatness, from long ago. The choir garb says that, together with the left-behind Great One, they look to the skies, in search of astral signs, that may lead them to the rediscovery of true greatness. We know of no other Great One described as left behind that has come into contact with the choir other than Ebrietas. This description therefore indicates that the choir and Ebrietas began working together to make contact with the Great Ones of the cosmos. This also makes sense when we consider that Ebrietas is not hostile towards the player to begin with, indicating a tolerance and relationship with humanity. But why did they search among the cosmos? The choir stumbled upon an epiphany, very suddenly and quite by accident. Here we stand, feet planted in the earth. But might the cosmos be very near us, only just above our heads? And the choir declaring that the sky and the cosmos are one. Not only had the choir received the epiphany that the cosmos are very close by, but they also knew that Ebrietas, along with other great ones, had existed in close proximity with the cosmos. In the world of Bloodborne, the cosmos are not the great chasm of space and stars above the atmosphere, but a plane that permeates and inhabits the space very close to that of the people of Yharnam, in the sky just above their heads. However, the limited human intellect is unable to function on such a transcendental plane, and must receive help from beings of higher planes, the Great Ones, for guidance. In order to elevate their thoughts, just as Provost Willem had attempted to do by lining his brain with eyes, the choir attempted to make contact with those Great Ones that inhabited the cosmos, a place so close yet so far out of reach. To do so, they tried a great number of experiments. They tried using Ebrietas' phantasms to reach a lofty plane of darkness, but failed to make contact with the outer reaches of the cosmos, instead creating a small exploding star. This is clearly a very dangerous means of attempted contact, and was discontinued. They tried creating contact through sound waves, like the bells that are used to contact other planes of existence by the hunters. To do so, they made a bell that projects arcane sound across planes of existence. This too was likely using phantasms, as they are closely associated with imbuing objects with arcane power, the empty phantasm shell for example. Unfortunately, this experiment was also a failure. It may be that the brain suckers are also a product of the choir's experimentation. The head of a brain sucker appears to have been cut open and a phantasm inserted. These phantasms ravenously seek out the insight or eyes that line the brains of those they come into contact with. Perhaps it was after the failure of these experiments that the members of the choir realized the potential of their young orphan test subjects. As noted, the orphanage key explains that the children of the orphanage became potent unseen thinkers for the healing church. When the player travels to the orphanage, they find a vast number of celestial emissaries. Celestial meaning positioned in or relating to the sky, or outer space as observed in astronomy, and emissary meaning a person sent as a diplomatic representative on a special mission. These creatures were clearly created to make contact with the Great Ones of the cosmos, acting as emissaries on behalf of mankind. It is unknown how exactly they are created, but it is certain that they are not natural. Completing the Imposter Iosefka quest will reveal to the player that those sent to her clinic became the celestial emissaries found within. Iosefka does give an interesting clue about how these emissaries are made when she says, "I've received another patient. This time, I'll be trying old blood. I've achieved much, and I owe it all to you. Thanks. And cheers to the discovery of kinship. Doesn't it make you feel warm inside?" This dialogue strongly indicates Iosefka anesthetized her patients through use of the blue elixir, and that it is old blood that allowed her to create the emissaries. The created emissaries are known as kin of the cosmos. Ebrietas herself is called Ebrietas, daughter of the cosmos. The kin cold blood item reads, cold blood of inhuman kin of the cosmos, brethren of the Great Ones. These pieces of evidence paint a picture. Iosefka, who is a member of the choir, was able to use blood collected from Ebrietas to metamorphose. Blood transforms those that imbibe it, a phenomenon seen throughout Bloodborne. Her patients into kin of Ebrietas, the heads of these kin are swollen with eyes, a legacy of Willem's research, and they emit an unusual sound seemingly unconsciously, as though they are broadcasting. This use of Ebrietas' blood was perhaps a major milestone for the choir and those carrying out the experiments. Prior to this, the church had forced their cerebral patients to imbibe water until their heads expanded with the markings of internal eyes. But now the blood of an actual Great One meant that the experiments began to look less like the living failures and Saint Adeline by the end of her quest, and more like the celestial emissaries, whole and healthy beings with apparent agency. Ebrietas bleeds two kinds of blood. The first kind is the common red blood, like red blood cells, that she will spit at the player. The second is blood with a clear, serum-like color, like plasma, and is seemingly the predominant type of blood she houses. The serum-like blood is not only found in Ebrietas, but also in a number of other creatures related to the Great Ones. Serum blood is a contested blood type, a careless merger of Iosefka's blood vial and brown blood. Many kin enemies have blue-gray blood, and other enemies, e.g. Orphan of Kos, Brain of Menses, Garden of Eyes, Children of Ram, supposedly bleeding, serum blood, actually have red blood. This seems to depend on where you encounter them. The creatures that may have serum blood include Brain Sucker, Children of Ram, Garden of Eyes, Winter Lantern, Celestial Child, Small Celestial Emissary, Fluorescent Flower, Ram, the Vacuous Spider, Amygdala, Celestial Emissary, Brain of Menses, Living Failures, Orphan of Kos, and Provost Willem. There are two major types of enemy in Bloodborne, beast and kin. According to the kin cold blood item description, kin enemies are known as kin of the cosmos, and are therefore likely related to Ebrietas by blood. While the above creatures do bleed the serum-like blood, evidence from the official Bloodborne guide indicates that not all creatures that bleed the pale serum-like blood are necessarily kin to Ebrietas. Particularly interesting is that while Ram is not considered kin by the official guide, she does drop kin cold blood upon being defeated. There are unexplained aspects to Ebrietas and her predicament that would appear to involve Ram, or a creature almost identical to Ram in form. When the player first encounters Ebrietas, she is prostrated before the altar of despair. It may be that she is sleeping, perhaps praying, or perhaps that she is overcome with sadness. It is no secret that every great one loses its child, and then yearns for a surrogate, and perhaps this is no different for Ebrietas. Scattered throughout the upper cathedral ward, the player will encounter dense concentrations of celestial children, or larvae, which is a kin creature. These creatures bleed pale kin blood when attacked, and almost exactly resemble a very juvenile form of the fully grown Ebrietas. Their slug-like bodies, large round heads, protruding tubes upon their faces, and especially the tiny wings that look so much like Ebrietas all give them away as her spawn. Their very existence tells us that Ebrietas and the choir were attempting to create a child of a great one. We can theorize how these spawn came into being through the events of Ariana's story. Ariana gives birth to a celestial larvae, indicating that the church must have used human women to carry the spawn of Ebrietas. Ariana is certainly one who has imbibed much blood from those ministers of the church. Is it not likely that she would have came into the possession of the blood of Ebrietas from the church ministers who visited her at some point in her career? Then it took the descent of the blood moon to conceive the celestial child that she would give birth to. Perhaps these creatures would eventually grow up to be great ones, or perhaps they are pale imitations of even Ebrietas' greatness. Atop the altar of despair sits a figure almost identical to Ram, the vacuous spider. However, this creature is seemingly dead and gray. As we know through the quest line of Queen Annalise of Cainhurst, the altar is able to reverse the flow of time under special circumstances. Could it be that Ebrietas placed her child upon the altar in an attempt to bring it back? The proliferation of celestial children certainly indicates that Ebrietas sought a surrogate, so then where is her original child, if not on the altar? The ties between Ebrietas and this Ram-like creature go deeper than proximity. Ebrietas' name gives us a clue. Ebrietas may get her name from the Ebrietas butterfly, a species of butterfly found in South America, which matches the, although admittedly distorted form, of Ebrietas as having an almost butterfly-like appearance. What is even more interesting is what the Ebrietas butterfly looks like in its larval stage as a caterpillar. From this we can see that the resemblance to Ram is almost uncanny. This information is very illuminating and leads to much speculation. From it we can be relatively confident in theorizing that Ram's form is a larval stage of the same kind of great one as Ebrietas, indicating the creature atop the altar is indeed the child of Ebrietas that has since died, leaving Ebrietas abandoned once more. In the end, the fact that imposter Iosefka is still attempting to make contact with the Great Ones using the means of the choir may indicate that the choir's attempts at contact were never successful, that despite the many experiments and seeming success, Ebrietas and her human helpers were unable to rediscover the true greatness they sought so desperately.